Okay. Welcome everyone. This webinar is dedicated to version 11 onwards, especially for customers who are not yet on V11. Older customers who are on 10.x or older and would have to upgrade at some point of time. This presentation would be relevant. The context. So what we will be not covering is very specific customer issues in this webinar. If you already upgraded and tested and found some issue, that is not the intention. I'll talk about what is the intention in the next slides. Nor will we be demoing the features of the paid workflow module. This is not to market the workflow module as such. The goal is to talk about what has changed, why it has changed, what is the background. There is considerable interest in the community around this. So we would like to kind of explain what led to all these things and also what is the path forward. So why is V11 so different compared to 10.x or older versions? Some background about it. So let's talk about pre 10.x OpenSpecimen. So we used to use a technology called as Angular JavaScript, Angular JS for our UI framework. And in the recent years, what started happening was that it started getting flagged as since it is an outdated framework, it started getting flagged as security issue during any security testing that we would do, or many of our customers who do their security testing. We always used to get pass for it because we would say that okay, we are working on replacing Angular JS, because as you can imagine, OpenSpecimen is so huge. Replacing the whole UI in one go is not possible. So what we have been doing in the last couple of years is replacing it step by step. So unfortunately, a lot of this effort is not visible to end users because it does not really matter whether it is an Angular or Vue, as long as it pretty much looks the same and works the same. So therefore, but it has been a huge effort for us to do this total rewrite of the user interface. So one of the reasons for the changes that you see is because we had to replace the Angular, and even now it is not fully done. There are still parts of it. So our goal is to, by the end of next 3 to 6 months, probably we'll be getting rid of Angular totally and fully into the new framework. The other problem was that when we first started OpenSpecimen long ago, there were only static pages, the ones that you see when you install OpenSpecimen. Then to improve the configurability, we added the option of doing JSON configuration. But then the JSON configuration was kind of duplicate of the static pages. So therefore, there was the same code doing what the static code was doing using the JSON configuration, plus additional stuff in the JSON. But then the static was also included in the JSON. And then we introduced the workflow module. So now we have like 3 different ways of doing the same thing. And when something like this happens, you can imagine that when you report a bug, for us to fix it, we need to now make sure that it is fixed in 3 places, tested in 3 places. And this applies to bugs, enhancements, improvements, everything, which would become a huge overhead for us. So to streamline all these things is what the 11.x did, which is what I will come to next. Sorry, this should have been post 11.1 onwards, not pre 11.1. But anyway, I'll edit it later. So we use Vue.js as the platform, and that is what we have been doing for the last couple of years. As I said, you would have noticed minor changes in your admin modules like site, users, etc. when you upgrade it to 10.x. That is because those modules have been getting replaced from the old Angular to Vue.js. And 11.x happens to be the turn of biospecimen module. And instead of again repeating the same mistake of doing the same feature in multiple different ways, we opted to reuse the workflow module to do it. And that has led to a few issues, which I'll come to, but that was the intention of doing this. So with this, the advantage is that now we have one place to do everything. So when you report bugs or when we do enhancements, we only need to do those things in one place, and therefore it takes less time, less testing efforts, etc. So now, all this kind of looks good for, say, from Kushagni's point of view, because it is now cheaper for us to fix bugs. It takes less time or testing. So what exactly is it for you guys in this? If it takes less time for us to fix bugs, that means that we can fix more bugs. That means that we can add more features, and therefore, as a community and as the customers, it is in your benefit that things get streamlined in the product. So that is, it's not just something that we are doing it for our sake. The overall product and the health of the product, as well as productivity of our team, directly impacts what you get from us. So that is what is in it for you guys. And obviously the security issue that, while we have been getting the passes, because it is kind of a recent issue and people have been lenient with us, but there will be a time soon when your own security team, if it does a testing, they will say you can't use OpenSpecimen because it is not passing. The same issue would come to a stage where from being a yellow flag is now a red flag and cannot be used anymore. So, from all these angles, it is not just a thing that we are doing for our sake, or for the sake of doing it. And it obviously has led to a lot more work for us. The initial pain has been, we having to handle so many customers, the issues, etc., has been, equally burdensome on us. But so that's the pain that, we have to cross to be able to reach, a stage where these issues won't matter anymore. And one confusion has been that, workflows is a paid module. Now, if everything is workflows dependent, do everyone have to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. So that is not the case. So whatever is needed for the upgrade for an old customer is part of the contract, and therefore there is nothing extra, the nothing extra that you need to pay. The only time you need to pay is if you choose to use the power of workflows and want to develop custom workflows, etc. And that is when the workflow module plug kicks in, and that is when you would need to pay. But if you are not going to use, when you install 11.x, it comes with what we call as system workflows, which is the workflows meant for replacing the current functionalities. But then there's a lot of advantage of using workflows, especially in terms of how much time you will save of your end users. And by choosing to do so, that is when the paid module comes into picture. Otherwise, just for using, just for from an upgrade point of view and whatever it needs to do the upgrade, there is no additional fees involved in the upgrade. So we acknowledge that, it's been, especially for the ones who, did the upgrade, and we are very grateful to them for the initial customers. There was initial pain. We worked with them to fix those issues as quickly as possible. And we continue to do that with the customers who are in the upgrade process. And we acknowledge that, and there are things that we could have done better, especially in terms of communication, communicating with the community or with the customers. And that is a lesson learned, and we are working on fixing those kinds of things. We already done a few things, and we'll do whatever else is needed to do that. So this does not apply for new customers who are already on 11.x. In fact, the whole webinar is pretty much irrelevant if you're a new customer who directly started to use 11.x. This is only for customers who they're welcome to stay. But the content applies to the people who are using 10.x or the previous versions. So how do we, so during the upgrade process, how do we address any issues? This actually a slide. Yeah, so we assign a dedicated project manager who is the only, so you don't necessarily need to go through the support channel. The dedicated project manager will take care of resolving all your issues. You can also assign us specific collection protocols to test before you spend any time on it, so that we first do a basic round of testing and then hand it over to you. There won't be extra credits for doing any of this, testing or work with you. We can also schedule weekly calls with the project manager, etc. So we'll do whatever it needs to support you in doing the upgrade. Why should one upgrade? Again, we are not forcing people to upgrade, but then if upgrading once a year is very healthy. If you are in, there are some customers who are on 8.x and older versions. So we our ability to support bug fixes, etc., is always in the latest version of the product. We will not be able to go back and fix anything, or new features get added only in the latest versions. So therefore, it is matter of when rather than if. So the at some point, people will have to upgrade. But again, the advantage. Can you guys still hear me? I heard a beep.
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Hear you.
No,
Yes,
sorry, I
we
heard a
can
beep
hear
from
you.
I heard a beep from my headset, so I was worried. So so that's the reason to do the upgrade. Now, the other pain point has been some features were removed, a small percentage of the features, and the intention there is that OpenSpecimen is about 10 plus years old product, and over the period of time, we have added a lot of features, some on our own, some based on customer feedback, etc. But then it ends up being, when we do that, the product ends up getting bloated, and some of these features are used by one customer or two customers, and then some features may probably not be used by any customers. Some things that we added on our own thinking is useful, and no one gets to use it. So one of the principles of product development is also that less is more. If you go on adding every feature that everyone asks, then the product is going to end up being hugely bloated, very difficult to maintain, etc. So with that intention, when we did the rewrite, we also looked at some of the features and looked at how many people asked for it, uses it, our own judgment in doing that, and whether there are reasonable workarounds to do that, etc., and decided not to implement some of the features. But then later, when based on some of the features we added back based on customer feedback, etc. So while we are flexible in discussing with whoever is using it, whether the workaround works for them, whether it is something that they can live without, or there is live with the workaround, how important it is, etc. So those are the kind of conversations, is a one-on-one discussion with the customer. That's why we assign a dedicated project manager, and we get involved, in the sense, me and Purnima, to ensure that if it is something that is insurmountable, then we are open to add those features back. But we don't want to just implement every feature in OpenSpecimen just because it was implemented earlier. So that's the rationale behind that. So again, these are kind of discussions that we need to have one-on-one with the people during an upgrade, because again, most of the features that we have added, that we have removed, there are already lots of customers who are on 11.x, either new customers who never saw 10.3, so therefore they have no idea about all these issues. So if you're not seeing a feature, then you don't need it, right? So some of and also a lot of customers who upgraded from 10.x. So for the ones who are in the upgrade process, we work with them, we decide whether it's absolutely needed, and if there's a workaround, and then add it. So again, even this is, in some sense, we all, both you guys and us, don't want a bloated product with the product doing thousands of things, making it hard to configure, making it hard to use, making it hard to maintain, etc. So that's the intention of removing some of the features. And again, this must be like 2% of what the whole OpenSpecimen does, or less than that. So as I said, what if a feature needed, you guys, if a specific customer absolutely needs it, this is a discussion or a conversation that we have. during the upgrade with that specific customer, and then if it is absolutely needed, we work with them and figure out a way to either support it or provide a workaround. So that's it from my side. What Neha will do now is actually do a demo of the the changes. The Again, as I said, this demo we are not going to cover all kinds of things about the workflow module as such. We're going to focus only on what if you are a 10.x user and upgraded to 11.x and have no interest in the workflow module. How does it look like and how would you use it, etc. But before I'll stop sharing, Neha can start the sharing. But if anyone has quick questions, I'm happy to take, or we can take all of them together at the end.
Hi, Sri. This is Rod. I have a quick question about that custom versus the system workflow. Is there a dedicated page explaining the difference between the two?
No, so there's no difference as such within the two. So the custom workflow is only the additional workflows that you get to develop uh, based on your specific workflows. Otherwise, from a workflow point of view, they are just the same. So that the only difference is that a system workflow cannot be edited. So whatever is shipped with OpenSpecimen is the workflow. But if you want to create additional workflows, is what we call as a custom workflow.
Okay, I was just wondering, like, in which use case, which one is fall under the custom versus the system? Because you mentioned that you had to pay if it's a custom workflow versus the system.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you install OpenSpecimen, it comes with some 7 or 8 workflows. So they are called system workflows. We'll see when Neha gives the demo, or I can clarify that further in our one-on-one calls.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll let Neha do the demo.
Okay, so I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be using a study setup on the test server. So that's demo longitudinal study. And let me go through the data entry. So when I click on add participant, this is the default page that we see. Okay, so I'm entering my patient ID and other details, if any available, I can add them and add participant. Okay, so this is my new patient that I have registered. Now I want to add my visits, and in this case, I'll be just collecting my primary specimen. So when I click on the collect button, so these are all the pending visits here. This is the participant overview page. And when I click on the collect button, this will take me to the system workflow, which is the register visit and collect primary specimens. And if you see on the right hand side here, this is the task bar, the progress bar actually, which tells you how many tasks are there in this particular workflow. When you click on it, it will show you the existing tasks in this particular workflow. Okay, so there are 3 tasks in total. Now I'll proceed and add data. So this is the visit form that I'm seeing.
So,
I can.
Neha, 1 minute. So these screens are actually coming from the workflow module. And also this might look different to people who already use the workflow, because based on so usually you are used to see on the left hand side a panel of this task that you see here, and based on feedback from customers, what we have done is we have removed that panel and added it as a optional openable thing at the top. So that way the whole real estate on the screen is dedicated to doing the task rather than having those static panel on the left. So if you already seen the upgraded version or things like that, and if you're getting confused as to this looks a bit different, it's only because the left hand side panel is removed or moved, not removed.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'll add some data over here and submit. So this has now registered a visit under the patient for the baseline event. These are the primary specimens that are coming from the specimen requirements. All the details that you see here, again, they are coming from the specimen requirements. If there are any changes needed to the defaults, you can make those changes over here, like change the date and time, or it's also possible to, change type and change your time from here. Okay, so both options are possible. And yeah, printing settings. Okay, once you're done reviewing your changes, making any changes to the specimens, you can click on submit. So this will now create your primary specimens. And if there is any end step configured in your JSON, then it will get you to this step wherein the fields that are configured will be shown on this page. Okay, so what I have configured is I have configured spun event for the whole blood specimens, which is why the two samples that I've collected have come up here along with the defaults that are set up in the JSON. Okay, and submit. So this completes the workflow. Now, what I have done is I have collected the primary specimens, and there are two whole blood samples that are collected now. Let me show you the tree view as well. The child specimens are still pending. Okay. So what I can do is if I'm now planning to collect all my specimens together, I have an option from here to say collect pending specimens, which will collect the pending child samples that are there for that particular patient. Okay, so this has again got me to a workflow. Okay, so there are two tasks in this, which is collect pending primary and then, collect pending specimens and then the end step. Okay, so again, all the details that you are seeing here, they're coming from the specimen requirements. Auto allocation has been set up for the collection protocol, which is why it is also adding the containers and the locations within it. Okay, the primary specimens and the derivatives, I want to close them as soon as I create the aliquots. And this is set up at the CP level. It is enabled, which is why the buttons have been, the checkboxes have been checked automatically. Okay, once I'm done reviewing the changes, or if I want to make any changes, let's say to the quantity, the fourth aliquot was a little bit less. Sorry, the fifth one, I've changed the quantity and I'll click on submit. Okay, so here again, there is some configuration done. So for the plasma and serum samples, I want to add a frozen event, which is why they are coming up in this section. I had two RNA samples configured, and I want to add a molecular event for them, which is why it has come up in a different section. Okay, so this is the end step that we are seeing now. And now I'll click on submit. Okay, so this is how we can collect the specimens. So whatever collection you have seen now is for the planned specimens. Okay, let's say I got an additional tube and I wish to add that in the baseline event. So how do I do that? There are two options. So from here, you can click on add unplanned specimens, or if you are inside the visit, you can just click on this add specimen button. Okay, so this will take you to the workflow to add the unplanned specimens. Now let's say I got two additional urine samples. Okay, so I'll select the type. Okay, let's say the sample was 10 ml. I'll not add much details. I'll just scroll down. Okay, then you can specify how many samples have you got, whether you received one or two tubes. So I'll say I've received two tubes and I want to aliquot them as well. So you have this checkbox over here and you can click on submit. If there are additional tubes that you want to add, you can use this add another option and you can add more details. Okay, for now, let's proceed with adding the urine samples. Okay, so that's the parent that is created. And this step is for creating the aliquots. Since I said that I want to create aliquots out of it. Okay, I'll leave other details blank. Let's close out the parents and submit. So as auto allocation is set up, it has created those aliquots and it has got the location as well. If needed, it also allows me to select the locations manually. I can change this and I can put the samples in a different container. Okay, this is also possible. Okay, now let's click on submit. Okay. Again, there is an end step configured, which is doing this. Let's say I do not want to add frozen event for the urine samples as of now, because I'm not planning to store them immediately. So I can skip this step. Okay. And I can add details as to why I am not performing this step now. So I'll say not storing the specimens immediately. Okay. And submit. Okay, so this has now added 2 new tubes, aliquots, and they are stored in the containers. Okay, it's also possible to process these samples further. Let's say I want to create DNA out of these samples. I can select the samples, and even from under actions, I can say that I want to create further derivatives or aliquots. It will again take me to the unplanned specimens workflow. Okay, that's it from my side. Happy to take any questions if there are any. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of replacing the existing UI, this is pretty much the things that gets replaced, or depending on what else you are using, there might be one or two other things. So the everything else kind of comes under the power of 11.x, and the new features in 11.x is more of the workflow module specific things, which, as I said, is not part of. I mean, we are happy to ask questions, answer questions if anyone has, since we have time to. But from a user who wants to use OpenSpecimen without any new, without utilizing the workflow features of the workflow module, this is pretty much it. So now you can keep the share screen shared,
Yeah.
just in case anyone has any questions. I heard someone unmuting. It's Richard.
The example that Neha has given us is one which has a number of predefined visits. A lot of our work, excuse me, a lot of our workflows have basically ad hoc visits, and also the number of specimens which can be we've got about 20 or 30 different types of specimen that could be collected on these visits. I'm just wondering how workflows would cope with this sort of scenario.
No, so Neha, did you understand the question?
Yeah. So it's completely unplanned process, and he wants to see how to handle almost 20 collections that they're doing at one time, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I say, the number,
Okay.
the
So
the the
Mhm.
number and timing of the visits can be totally ad hoc. Some patients will have just a single visit, single collection, and others can have half a dozen or so, and anything in between. So that's really
No,
the sort
again,
of scenario that we're concerned about, shall we say?
yeah. So I will answer my answer, and then Neha will actually show. Neha, go back to the original screen and start from there, because I don't think Richard saw how you reached here. So
Okay.
one is, all these kinds of features work pretty much the same way as it was before. So, and these are like the major, most common features. There is no change. Um, it just looks a bit different. If you see on the left hand side, there is that dot 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 thing. When you click
Yeah.
on that, same thing in, these are the same options in, no, not, don't click on anything as of now. But click on the dot, dot, dot. Yeah, so now stay where you are. So these are the same options that were there before, same options that are there now. You do the same set of things, so there is no difference.
Right. So in our scenario, we've got a patient come in. We might have a baseline visit to configured as the first one, and then if that patient comes back and further samples are taken, then we can create a new visit using the option on the drop down.
Yeah, again, I'm not 100% sure of what you are doing in 10.3 or the version that you have. But it's
Yeah.
the same thing that you will do now. So I'm saying if you have a baseline event created, then you would have the same thing gets carried over. If you're using whatever you are clicking to do that would continue to work the same way. I mean, these options, everything is exactly the same.
Yeah, and we could still add
add
a sample without having a sample requirement actually defined.
Yeah, that's the collect unplanned specimens option. So it's again the same thing that you did in 10.3.
Yeah.
Okay. Any?
Yeah, that's fine. Just another quick question, bit of an aside. What version are you actually demonstrating at the moment? It's an 11 dot something.
No, this is the hottest from the oven. So this is what we call. So this is pretty much 12.0, which will be released in the coming days. So
all right.
So again, we just increment the number at start of the year. So this is January. So we go from 12 to 11 to 12. It does not mean that there's huge difference between 11 to 12. It's just every 3 months we make a release. So we made 11.3 sometime in November, etc. 11 dot. I don't. Was it 11.2 near 11.3?
It's still 11.2.
2, yeah. So
Yeah.
now it's January, so we call it 12, so that we remember that it's been 12 years since we started making this. So
Yeah.
yeah. But again, even 11.x is not very different than this. Everything is exactly the same. Obviously, 12.0 has some more bug fixes based on the customer input, some new features, etc. But it's pretty much 99% same. I saw Paul unmuting himself.
Yeah, so any changes on the query module, like based on the task which is incomplete, like can we also query that?
The task, yeah. So that was so Neha, do you remember the specimen where you skipped the task?
Yes.
So as part of the enhancements of 11x, what happens is that if you skip any task, it adds an event to the specimen saying that on this specimen, this task was not done, and this is the reason why the user didn't do this task, and kind of a quality QC check that tomorrow you can query for what kind of tasks are not being done, who is the user not doing it, what is the reason they are not doing it, etc. So yeah, that's part of what we call as a deviation event. So if people skip one of the tasks in between, then that gets logged as someone didn't do this task, and you can do auditing of your quality processes as to whether people are following the processes or not. Okay.
And in terms of the JSON workflow, like any changes on the JSON configuration which we need to do?
No, so there's no change in the JSON workflow to do. The only thing that might happen is that we have a list of features documented on wiki that is not supported in 11.x compared to earlier. If your JSON contains any of those, then they get ignored. And if that impacts you, then you can so we'll have to deal with those things during upgrade. But otherwise, just because you are upgrading, you don't need to make any changes as such.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Shri, I got a question for you. Hey,
Yeah.
how are you? I was wondering about, after we do move forward to version 11, should we be able to create our own workflows, or would we need to work with you to create new workflows?
So there, the assumption is that you already have purchased the workflow module. So now the question is who develops the workflow, the custom workflows. So we have wiki pages. You are welcome to develop. You are welcome to. So with the plugin, you get 3 free workflows from us, developed by us, which can serve as a baseline for doing new workflows. We have got a lot of customers who develop their own workflows. We have got a lot of customers who say you develop it for us. So it is a choice that you have. And obviously we charge for new workflows, but it's a choice that you have.
And it's the price varies for what you develop, that just based on the effort on your end?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's the price of the workflows module?
I'll send you a quote. I think I already sent it to Sharon earlier once, but I'll send you a quote on that.
Yeah, can you resend it? Because we were looking for it today. We actually had a customer ask us about it.
I'll do that.
Hey Sri, I have a quick question about that deviation event. Is it the part of the workflow? Do you have to follow each of the step and then using the skip option, or is there a way you can configure in the JSON to have that step not displayed at all on the UI? So for example, like the end step, if I don't want it to show, and not a lot of some user may not use the end step, is there a way for me to hide it completely from the UI, or I have to use the skip option?
Neha, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can remove the skip option in the sense make the task mandatory that people can't skip it. But then the skip itself cannot be removed. So if people skip, they need to enter why they skipped it.
Right.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
But on the other side, this is not the question you asked, but just for completeness, on the other side, you can make sure that people follow each step or make sure that a task is mandatory by configuring the workflow not to allow people to skip it. So it depends on these steps.
Basically, the skip button is configurable. You get to decide whether you want to add it or not.
But it is required that you still have to follow each of the step, right? Like I mentioned, like the end step, you still need it's sort of baked into the workflow plugin. Is that correct?
So there are 2 parts to this. One, if you're using the system workflows, yes, the end step will show up if your JSON has the configuration. If there is no configuration for the end step, the step will be automatically skipped. There will be no deviation event added.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, so this is what we call as the end step configuration.
No, you don't bring this up now.
Okay, sorry.
Go back to OpenSpecimen.
Yeah, so if there is some configuration like that, then the end step will be there. Then the users can decide whether to skip or not. If it is not there, you don't have to worry. The workflow will get over as soon as you complete the specimen collection.
Okay, and it won't flag the deviation event, right?
No,
If
it
it's
won't.
not added. Got it.
No,
Okay,
no.
sure. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are there deviation events for the forms, like form data entry?
And it's that everything is against the specimen. So even if you skip the form data entry, it goes against the specimen that this form was not entered. Okay. Any more questions? I don't see anyone unmuting. Okay, sounds good. So thanks everyone for joining the call. And as I said, anyone who wants to do the upgrade, we will assign a dedicated project manager and make sure that all your issues are taken care, and work with you. And more importantly, if there are things that you want us to do to help you in the upgrade testing, we are happy to do that too. But and if there are things that we need to do to make sure that your use cases are all working fine, again, that's something that is a conversation that we have one-on-one. Let us know. Having said that, especially upgrading at least once a year is something that we expect people to do. And more importantly, if there are issues or bugs that are found, it's very difficult to go back to an older version and fix it. So upgrading at least once a year is very healthy. We'll be happy to work with you guys to in that process.
With that
Thanks,
being said, I have a question. This is Nicole from Allegheny Health Network.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Shri. I had a question because I would like to do an upgrade. So how do we connect? Do we just send a separate email asking to have a project manager
It's the same.
assigned?
Yeah, so you can start with the support ticket and then we can take it forward from there.
Oh, okay, great. I already submitted a support ticket. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, one last call. If I see someone unmuting, does not look like. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.